Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We are back live in our brand new studios. Glad to be back. And over the next hour, we'll talk a lot about the home teams. Yeah, we're going to talk about the New Orleans Saints. We have to talk about the LSU Tigers and the Tulane Green Wave. We'll do it all, and we'll do it with two great analysts as well. Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports and also Larry Holder of NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. Guys, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for coming down to the new studio, and let's hope we have some good things to talk about this year, because right now, after just a peek into the preseason, then LSU and Tulane's first games, looks like it might be a long one.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have a better weekend this weekend, possibly. But, yeah, that was, man, especially with LSU, the reaction, it's just, man, what a letdown to start the regular season. And then, obviously, Saints this weekend. And right now, you know, a lot of those LSU and Saints fans overlap. You can just sense that the nerves, the anxiety in the fan base. There's no doubt about it.
No doubt about it. Guys, we always like to start off letting folks know a little bit about what you guys are involved in. Sean, tell the folks about what you're involved in over at Fox 8. You guys got a lot of great stuff going on, including a new app. Why don't you kick it off for us?
Everything. We have everything going right now. Final Play app. It's all of our content from Saints. You can download that. We have our Game Plan show, which airs tonight, as a matter of fact, at 10:30. With Juan Kincaid and myself. We also have Fox 8 Football Friday, which is our high school football show, which airs tomorrow at 10:35. And we also have our Fox 8 Live Tailgate in the morning, Sunday mornings from 10 to 11, which my guy right here will be with us once again this year. And, of course, the Final Play show every Sunday night at 10:30. And then on Mondays, yeah, we still have more. We have Mondays, we have the Black and Gold Rewind with Jim Henderson, Juan Kincaid, and myself. So if you want Saints coverage, we got it.
And an award-winning blog,
and
too.
At the furtherreviewblog.com.
There you go.
Yes, thank you.
Larry, Saints columnist for the New Orleans Times-Picayune. You guys got some great stuff going as well. Tell us about the coverage you guys have going.
Absolutely, of course. It's 24/7, 365, 366 on a leap year. I mean, we're there every day at NOLA.com and, of course, in our print editions of the Times-Picayune. And season number 2 for myself and Jeff Duncan, we have our Dat Chat live podcast that's actually going to crank up Friday morning at 11 a.m. and after it's done. If you can't catch us live, it's on iTunes. And as Sean alluded to, of course, I'm always a frequent guest analyst for Fox 8. And, of course, every game day they have a tailgate show. I'm on the sidelines with them spouting off what's gone right, typically what's gone wrong these last couple of years, and lots of bad predictions. How many bad predictions have I had? Thank you.
No more predictions?
I can't. Well, I do it at NOLA.com, but on the show, it's just a total nightmare. A nightmare.
Larry, I quit doing that a long time ago on the radio. If you know anything about my radio show, you never hear me predict anything. Because don't go to Vegas on anything I say, because you will be losing a lot of money, no doubt. A guy that lost a little bit of money, but he took one for the team, is Drew Brees. Sean, we'll start with you. 5-year extension, voidable after 2 years, $44.25 million. His cap number drops from $30 million to $17.25 million. But there's $18 million in dead money from 2018 to 2020, depending on what they're going to do down the line here. For his part, there's a no trade and a no franchise clause. Your thoughts on this deal? I want to get into it with both of you, because I think a lot of people are excited about Brees sticking around for at least 2 more seasons, but a lot of people are miffed why this didn't get done quicker.
That's where I'm at with it. I mean, if this would have been done in March, who knows how different this roster would have looked. But I don't want to ever hear the Drew Brees makes too much money argument ever again. He's a team player. That for as long as they've held out and the leverage that Drew Brees had, that's a pretty fair contract for the Saints. And ultimately, I think Mickey Loomis probably got the upper hand in this negotiation slightly. But look, Drew Brees got $44 million in new guaranteed money, so he's certainly not hurting. It was a team-friendly deal, which when the numbers came out that he wanted 4 years, $100 million, I did not feel right about 4 years. So I thought 2 years was probably better for the Saints, and ultimately that's what they got. So it's a win-win, but I think the bigger win goes to the Saints. It's just a shame it couldn't have gotten done earlier because this team could be a little bit better than what they are right now.
Larry, what's your take on it?
I think Drew Brees ultimately probably looked at things and said, I don't think the Saints are going to back off of this, because I can tell you the Saints have, for at least the last couple of years, have looked at Drew Brees year to year. They were not going to back down off that stance. The leverage that Drew Brees did not have was his age. It doesn't matter the production. His age was always going to work against him. And you look at the results of quarterbacks later in their years, and sure, some of the elite to the elite have big-time seasons, but you get to 37, 38, 39, it stops, it cuts off. And so basically, Drew Brees says, all right, well, the Saints are going to keep me year to year. I will push as long as I can, and basically that threshold is if they make the playoffs next year, he'll be 39 in the playoffs, and that's the cutoff. I mean, Brett Favre was 39 for the Vikings in 2009. And so the way you look at it is Drew Brees wanted more, and I think he pushed more. And look, we know how competitive Drew Brees is, and we know he's a union guy, and it's one thing. He didn't take less money because, look, ultimately it's going to be, what, $24 million, like, say, next year or something like that?
Yeah, right.
And so he didn't take less. He was still market value, but he wanted more security, he wanted more years. That didn't happen, and so people ask, why didn't this happen earlier? I don't have a real good answer for you, but what I think is Drew Brees figured, I played chicken once, I won. And this was back in 2011. I played chicken this time, I don't think I'm going to win, so let's just knock it out. And he even said, look, I wanted more years, and he had to concede. And he told Tom Condon, at this rate, I don't know how much longer I've got left. Let's make a cap-friendly deal, and let's try to win in my window, because his window is shorter than Sean Payton's window with the Saints, and I think Drew Brees ultimately has recognized that.
I'd like you to piggyback on what Sean said, because I've said it before in this program. All three have said it, either on your own programs, my program, whatever. Those in the fan base that have blamed the futility of the New Orleans Saints in terms of signing players, where they are on the salary cap on Drew Brees. I mean, this is part and parcel of what he has done to be able to give money back in some case to make this cap friendly. But this is more about what's going on in the front office and the miscues there, the problem they've had. You can't lay this on Drew Brees, can you?
No, absolutely not. When his contract first came out, everyone said, all right, he deserved 5 years, $20 million per year, and that was accurate. You can't blame Drew Brees for Junior Gillette. You can't blame Drew Brees for Jarris Byrd. You can't blame Drew Brees for all these other poor contracts. He's not the one making those deals. He signed a market rate deal, and people have jumped him. It's absurd to say this, and I don't know if people are ever going to give him, I guess, the benefit of the doubt ultimately. Some will, some probably won't, but he's not the GM. And if you're a football player, you do not have a full career span that will be football. You're not making $20 million a year till you're 70. Right. You need to get paid when you get paid. And the position and his production, it all added up to that. So any of that talk is absurd.
What can you add, Sean?
Can I jump in on this?
Sure, please.
Drew Brees has been the one decision Loomis and Payton have done absolutely right. Absolutely. None of this happens without Drew. None of this happens without Drew Brees. Now, does he cost a lot? Sure, he costs a lot, but when you have a high-priced quarterback, you got to make smarter moves in other areas. Brandon Browner, Junior Gillette, you mentioned Jarris Byrd, and then you combine that with draft failures. They haven't bottomed out completely because of Drew Brees. That's what I've learned throughout all of this. Is an elite quarterback doesn't guarantee you playoffs. It doesn't guarantee you a Super Bowl. But I think with an elite quarterback, it prevents the bottoming out from happening. That's why the worst I've ever had was 7-9. So I think ultimately, if you are honestly thinking that Drew Brees was the reason for the rest of the team's failures, I mean, that's just ignorance. It's just not true.
It's really not knowing and really taking a look at this realistically, because you're ignoring the failures of the front office, and you're putting it on the one guy who's been a constant throughout this entire regime. You know, Brees is putting up record numbers. He's played injured, and he's been a team player. You can't say when they were looking to sign Josh Norman, he was willing to be able to step up and to be able to renegotiate his deal. So I think hopefully this puts this to bed once and for all. This deal that he's put together that will help this team that now gives them $14 million in cap room. Sean, what can they do with it? Is this going to be re-signing their own now? Devin Breaux, Vaccaro? Is there a deal out there to be made for a team that maybe has an abundance of guards out there that may want to move those so now they have cap room? What do you think happens here?
That's interesting because there's no premier free agents to spend on right now. So you get all this cap space with no one to really spend it on other than your own guys. Delvin Breaux, you can maybe get a head start on him because you got the cap space available. You mentioned Kenny Vaccaro. That's certainly a possibility. But I don't know. I mean, getting cap space now it's great, but it's not completely functional. So I think how much can you actually carry over from year to year? Because that's something they could potentially look into. But I think ultimately, look, the cap number is lower, so if they don't use it on their own guys, I'm not sure what else they could really do with that cap space.
Well, they carry it over is what they're going to do. It's going to carry over into next year. And going into this, the Saints had about less than $2 million of cap space. They ran into trouble last year and had to bump Drew Brees' cap number up to $30 million because they had so little cap space. So this year they gave themselves some cushion, but they're going to be able to carry that over in the next year. And here's the thing. I don't think there's anything you're going to do this year. Don't even think about using that cap space this year. That's done. That doesn't matter. It's more about carrying it over, using it next year, and making one real last run with Sean Payton and Drew Brees at the helm. And I think that's the way Drew looked at it. I will take a one-year extension and let's make one more real run. If something happens in 16, that's fantastic. But 17 is going to have to be the real ultimate run for Drew Brees to really have one more good shot at getting into the playoffs and doing whatever else they can do if they even get there.
2018, 2019, 2020, there is a $6 million dead money cap hit on this contract. Sean, what do you think happens there? Do you think this is his last deal with the Saints? You think there's another deal? Or is this basically, again, kind of riding off $18 million down the line?
As Larry said, you're getting up now. He's 37 now, 37 and a half on the backside of 37 was in January. So that's a good question. Look, if they make a run next year and they're 13-3 and he's 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns and he looks great, then sure, you can do that. He can get another 1 year. It's going to be these type of deals from here on out with him. But I think a lot of it has to do with what they do this year and next year and his performance as well. Because as we saw last year with Peyton Manning, you never know when it's going to come. And it's usually an injury that you can't quite recover as quickly as you used to from. He's been remarkably durable, but to be determined with 18, 19, and 20 and what happens after 2017.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Peyton Manning because he went through a series of essentially one-year deals. And oh, by the way, Tom Condon is Drew Brees' agent and Peyton Manning's agent. So you knew that was going to be the structure of the contract. At some point, Tom Condon's obviously used to dealing with that. So if he's incredible, you almost feel good if you're the Saints. You kind of have these ghost years in the back end where you can go one more year and you can go one more year. Obviously, it puts more money in the cap if you go another year. But it gives you at least the option. It's not, oh, it's done. We have a talking point. We can go forward. But look, I recently had a chance to catch up with Sean Payton, and it was our column in our special section, and he talked pretty openly about the next quarterback. He didn't agree to being the Saints coach for the next few years, thinking about, all right, Drew Brees is going to be with me the entire ride. Basically, he knows Drew Brees is with him now, and the next quarterback they got to look out for. It looks like, I mean, we can see with our own eyes, it's probably not going to be Garrett Grayson. Right. Regardless of whether he's waived, practice squad, 53-man, it doesn't matter. They are going to be looking for the next quarterback. Whether Drew Brees is back next year, the following year, doesn't matter. But he knows that Drew Brees is not going to be there through the rest of his tenure, and so There's a premium on winning now. There's a premium on winning in 2017, and that's why you see the deal is structured the way it is.
Guys, I'm going to get back to some of the signings and some of the extensions in a moment, but your colleague Jeff Duncan wrote recently in a column about Tom Benson going into the locker room after the Pittsburgh game. You guys are at the facility. You guys are obviously in the locker room a lot. So again, a lot of that information kind of permeates down to you guys. From what I understand from several reporters, also reading Jeff's article, Mr. Benson not happy at all about the loss to Pittsburgh, and that seemed to have a ripple effect, not just on the team itself in that locker room, but it rippled to Sean Payton and to Mickey Loomis. Sean, I'll take you first. Your thoughts?
Well, I can't say that I blame them. I mean, they did not look good in that preseason. It was their third year at the Greenbrier. It's Mr. Benson, has really stepped up in terms of resources. Anything that the Saints need, he is there to make sure that they get it. And look, they had a lot of success, but that success has come to a screeching halt. And look, if that is indeed what happened, I'm sure he was just upset about what he felt, what he saw on the field, and he wants things to be better. And look, he's the guy at the top. I cannot blame him, right? I cannot blame him. And I think if that is indeed what happened, then it was maybe done to light a fire under his guys, and you can't fault him for that.
He even in Jeff's article talked about the possibility of not going back to the Greenbrier, which I mean, I don't know what that means for the players one way or the other, but. What's your take on that, Larry? What are you hearing?
I think the shot at the Greenbrier is more about Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis than the players couldn't care less where they are. I'm sure they like the Greenbrier and its beautiful flowered wallpaper in the hotel rooms. But that's more of a shot at Mickey and Sean and just calling them out. And look, this is basically saying, I'm the boss here still. I may be 89 and I may be leaving this team to Gale. And there's still some legal nonsense. But guess what? I'm still the guy. And just because I'm up in age doesn't mean I can't see that this team has been bad. And this has got to change. And so I think you could tell by the mood of Sean Payton, specifically this week in some press conferences and conference calls, that he's a little wound tight. And I think he knows that things need to change. And all you need to see is what happened after that Steelers game. They started making all kinds of moves before the 75-man cuts even happened, making trades, bringing in veteran linemen, doing this, that, the other. And it just shows you, A, that the roster isn't good enough. And just look at all the moves that have just happened. Yes. And B, that rattled them. And so maybe it's going to be a good rattle. I think a lot of people figure that these guys aren't accountable.
Yes.
I at least think it's good to show that there is some accountability, even though Sean Payton just gets this new extension. Everyone assumes that the inmates run the asylum. Well, guess what? His voice still matters.
Yes.
Whether it's not as frequent, it still matters.
Guys, and I want to put this out there, much like I put out there about anybody that has criticized Breeze for not being a team player and the reasons why this team has been on a demise of 7-9, 7-9, throughout the last 4 years. Got to give Mr. Benson a lot of credit here, okay? I mean, he spent the money. You can't say that this guy, as you mentioned, has not done everything possible to try to get this team back in championship contention. If anything, the front office has fumbled the ball here, and I'm glad to see if ultimately that did happen, if it was a ripple effect all the way through the front office into the coaching staff. It's good to be able to have these guys be a little bit on pins and needles and worrying about their job, because he has put out the money and enough money to make this team a contender.
And from what I understand, not only has he provided resources, he lets his people do their jobs. He doesn't meddle. So if that is indeed what happened, I can, because who knows how many times that's ever actually happened with Loomis and Payton, especially in that sort of setting. So yeah. Mr. Benson has done everything in his power to provide his team the resources to win and win consistently. And look, 7-9 and 7-9, or 7-9 3 out of the last 4 seasons, that's not winning football. It's not what they're accustomed to. And clearly he wants change.
And it's not what he's paying for either.
Exactly.
Well, highest paid coach in the NFL, a guy that has the autonomy of Mickey Loomis to not only just be above one club, but two clubs. And then, of course, you look, one of the highest paid quarterbacks out there, and you look at a roster, again, that's well paid. I mean, it's not like he's pitching pennies on the roster. Hasn't been. Larry?
It's funny you mentioned Mickey Loomis looking over at both teams because I don't cover the Pelicans at all anymore. They've certainly spent money there and spent money poorly there, too.
Sure, absolutely.
So it's pretty amazing that we're at the point where we are with both of these franchises. But there's no question that Benson is a different person with his wallet than what he used to be. And it's not just with the Saints, but it's philanthropically everywhere. But he still wants to win. And that still matters. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Winning makes you money.
Yeah.
He's still a businessman, too. And the fact that you're not winning and not as many people, even though they might have season ticket holders, not as many people show up to the games and not as many people buy your gear when you're no good. And I think all that matters, too. But I think ultimately he wants a winner. And we have not seen that in quite a while now.
You mentioned something before we went on air, something I did not know. Jari Evans re-signs with this team, but he counts twice against the cap. First of all, your thoughts on the re-signing of Jari Evans, and kind of explain that to the audience as well.
I've never seen this before. Maybe it's happened, but no, Jari Evans, his old contract, the dead money still stays on the books. And so you sign him to a new deal. That has nothing to do with the old deal. So he's on the books twice. It may be a first. And I think, honestly, the Saints and Jari Evans, at this rate, they need each other. Jari Evans needed a job, and the Saints needed a guard. They might need two guards, but they still at least got somebody they at least trust. And I feel like they're at least a little better than where they are. Look, Jari Evans is listed as first on the depth chart. The guy was there for 30 seconds.
Right.
And they put him on the depth chart with the ones and put Pete, now Calamete and Lolito are backups. But it's such a curious thing to where the Saints did not address that position for the last 2 years. They cut Jari Evans because of his play. It wasn't up to snuff for the salary. And so they moved on, figuring, all right, they can get something somewhere and make ship with what they have. Didn't happen. And now you're having to basically turn back, say, oh, sorry, Jari. And I know we cut you and made you go to Seattle and made you look for work elsewhere for the last 7 months. But come on back, buddy. Let's do this again. And it just shows you the desperation they are at that position and how bad of a spot they're in.
And which is their own doing.
I go back to that because, look, Jari Evans started showing some signs of age 2 years ago. It wasn't last year. It was 2 years ago. I remember seeing him in games in 2014. I remember at the 2014 offseason between 2014 and 2015, we all come out with our list of potential cuts. He was very much on that list. He ended up taking a pay cut, stuck around for 2015. I remember 2015's training camp. He looked horrible. He looked bad. Now, he was injured a little bit, but even that, I mean, he was a durable player, and all of a sudden, injuries caught up to him. But in saying all that, I think he's an upgrade. I think you said he's been there 30 seconds. Well, he knows the system. And if he can just be, part of what he used to be, then I think that's an upgrade over Lolito or Calamete. No one is sold on Andrus Pete. They've had more than enough opportunity to address both of these guard positions. They haven't done it knowing how crucial it is to the survival of their most precious asset, Drew Brees. So ultimately, hopefully, they circle back around, and now they have Jari Evans. You just hope that he can somehow step up his game to be a decent guard in this league.
And obviously, Jari Evans was not their first choice, was not their second choice, probably was not their seventh choice. This is how far down the list they went. When Josh Sitton became available, they tried as hard as humanly possible to get him, and a Drew Brees contract extension would have helped that matter.
Absolutely would have.
And so you figured that I was actually coming, but he didn't want to leave the Midwest, and so he's stuck in Chicago, and of course Ryan Pace goes out and snags him. And they had an overload. I mean, Cody Whitehair was a draft pick. Now they drop him out the lineup and see him as he's a backup now. And yet Cody Whitehair, if the Saints drafted him, he probably would be starting right now. So it's amazing to where we are at this. And so, again, this is the Saints doing, and it's not like the Saints didn't understand that this was a problem. And it's not like the Saints didn't want to be a player in the guard market in free agency. They did not have the assets to do it. I think that's a bigger thing. And now they're falling back on Cody Fleener, and you got all these guys, and it's fine, but now they're in huge trouble. And your biggest asset is going to be the one possibly to get figuratively and maybe literally hurt with Drew Brees.
Right. And look, guys, I said it last week. I've said it on the radio show. It's the most egregious error that this particular regime has ever been involved in. You've got the franchise that is behind that line. You've got a line that, again, we have come to learn that it's an inside-out blocking scheme. The guard is the most important part of this line. We've seen Carl Nicks and Jari Evans. We saw what they did in their heyday. And the fact that they were trying to bring in undrafted free agents, NFL castoffs, moving a player who's never played the guard position into that, and almost trying to do something that Peyton has never done before. You know, Peyton had the reputation of, I'm putting the best guys on the field, no matter who they are, and doesn't matter how they got here. Doesn't seem that with Andres Pete. It's almost like they're trying to force him into that lineup after being the 13th pick a couple of years ago. So to me, once again, bad deals, bad management of the cap, came back to bite them, and they left open probably one of the most important positions on the team in that guard position. And I said it on the show this week. They're dumpster diving now, okay, trying to find players, literally. And, you know, when you're bringing in Jari Evans, and we all know that he's a descending player, all you can do is cross your fingers coming in this season. That's
Just
it.
hope.
Just hope. Just hope that you can get something, one more year out of him, that he's not injured, because now you've got two guys from that 06 draft, right, on that right side. So you're looking down the line at maybe having to replace two guys, depending on what you do with Pete, if he ultimately ends up at that right tackle.
But in saying all that, I still feel more confident with Jari Evans than I will with Tim Little right there, that guard. That's just kind of where I am with it, and that's where the Saints are with it right now. And off they go with Old Faithful back.
Yeah, no doubt. Max Unger re-signs, 4 years, $27 million. Really good move on the part of the Saints.
Rock solid deal. And look, I know Jimmy Graham's had his issues with health, so I keep going back to they got Stephon Anthony and Max Unger, and ended up being Jimmy Graham, and ended up being Tyler Lockett. So I think ultimately that trade, I think, has really worked out. He's rock solid in the middle. If he can just get, you know, some help on either side of him at either one of those guard positions, he'd be great. But I think he's a veteran. He's well respected. It's a fair deal. They got out in front of it. Wanted to battle free agents for it. So I think ultimately that's one move that they got right.
I think they got out in front of it because they were behind it, because they needed to make room to get Paul Kruger in.
Right.
I think that's part of it too. You look up and down. What do we do? Okay, let's extend Max Unger. I feel like that deal probably would not have gotten done yet.
You're right. Yeah.
If Paul Kruger wasn't available, because I think he's you know, his deal. You can't sign him for the league minimum. You had to try to go get him. And so I think that deal had to get done, because Paul Kruger, people were asking, was he going to play in that final preseason game? Well, no, he was not under contract yet. The Unger deal had to go through first to get Kruger in. So a good deal, yes. It does. It help you in free agency next year. You don't have to worry about that. Yes. But, again, it just goes to show you where they are in the salary cap. And, you know, this is before the Breeze deal. So they're having to scratch and claw everywhere to make some of this stuff done.
Well, you led us right into Kruger. Talk about Paul Kruger.
Look, I think he's going to be a starter. I think it's something that I kept bringing up all off season. They did not address this in the draft, even before the Kikaha injury. There was no one I think you could confidently put in as your 4-3 base defensive end and say, all right, play first and second down. You put it, if Kikaha was the guy, they'd run right at him. Run right at him. Edebali, the same thing. So I think at least the Saints got fortunate that Paul Kruger became available. The Saints were interested in him a few years ago. They finished second to Cleveland, who has to throw tons of money at everyone to get anybody, and so Paul Kruger ran for the money after winning the Super Bowl. Don't blame him, but to me, I don't know how well he's going to be as a pass rusher. He's had some up and down years, but he's, again, at least better than what you had.
You had a 2 or a 3 at that position. Kruger's not a 10, but maybe he's a 5 or a 6. So I think he can bring some stability. And I think if he can just help that pass rush just a little bit, I think the entire defense can be better. And I think, given where the Saints were at, given their desperation at that position, Paul Kruger was about the best you could have possibly hoped for this late in the game. Yeah. So they're fortunate enough to get him. You know, he certainly is an upgrade over what they had. And if you can just get some steady production opposite Cam Jordan at that position, which they haven't had for quite some time, I think he can be an asset and hopefully help the rest of the defense.
I was shocked. I mean, for him to come on the market that late, even though it looked like he was a declining player, he claims he wasn't being utilized the same way in Cleveland that he was when he first got there. He claims he's still got something to tank. We'll find that out very, very quickly as the season starts against Oakland on Sunday. But then, of course, you mentioned Sitton. He comes on the market. They don't get him. All of a sudden, I'm saying, wait a minute. Somebody's living right over there because now they've got a pass-rushing defensive end to come in. Maybe they've got an all-pro guard. As you and I talked off the air, you know, Kruger was an all-pro. Sitton is an all-pro. And of course, Sitton stayed in the Midwest, went to Chicago. But you still got this guy on defense. And as both you guys have mentioned, much like Jari Evans coming in, Kruger comes in. He's a starter now and already head and shoulders above what they had, which goes to show you, again, bad drafts, having to rely on undrafted free agents. It just hasn't worked out for this club recently. I'm going to get back to the Saints. We're going to talk about LSU and Tulane as well. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports each and every Thursday night right here on WLAE-TV with our live broadcast at 6 p.m. On Friday, you can catch us at 10 p.m. here on WLAE with our rebroadcast, and also on Pelican Sports Television in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette. That's 9 p.m. every Friday night. Larry Holder, Saints columnist for the New Orleans Times-Picayune and NOLA.com. Sean Fazende, Saints analyst, anchor, and reporter for Fox 8 are my guests. I'm Eric Asher. We'll be right back.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Frisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.
My life is full of statistics. Thing is, I could have dropped out of school and become one myself, but I didn't because I had people that believed in me. Here's another statistic. 7,000 students drop out every school day. That's one every 26 seconds. It's time that students know that we believe in them.
Inspire a student and share your message of support at boostup.org.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. We'll go to the phone lines in just a few minutes. I'll let you guys know we're ready for that. Guys, Larry Holder's with us. Also, Sean Fazende. Let's stay with the Saints for a little while longer. Obviously, solid at quarterback. The running backs seem like they're pretty solid. Offensive line is a huge question mark. The wide receivers, young, but seem talented. Let's take the offense. Sean, you take it first. What do you like? What do you don't like? What are your concerns?
Well, you kind of laid it out pretty nicely there. I mean, the biggest concern is pretty obvious. It's at guard. It's at the offensive line. Obviously, you have Drew. You know, a lot of people aren't high on Fleener, but I think he's going to get it at some point. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if he has a statistically a very good season. I like the wide receiver core, and you figure that much youth and then just get the sheer reps together, that trio will only grow. But look, Brandon Coleman is who he is. I think, you know, he'll be a part of the offense, but I don't know that he'll be a game changer. In fact, I know he won't be a game changer. But when you're 6'6", you're going to get a lot of opportunities, and that's just basically why he's here. Tommy Lee Lewis on the opposite extreme. He's the little guy that made it onto the roster, and who knows if he'll be active on game day. Offensively, look, if they don't get protection up front, it doesn't matter. So all those other things I talked about, you can forget about it. So if they can find a way to get decent protection, I think they are who they are. We've seen the results over the last decades, but if they don't, it could be a long season for Drew Brees.
Why don't you piggyback on that, if you would?
I think you look at tight end, and I'm not as sold maybe on Fleener as Sean is. His reputation was being someone who was inconsistent catching the football. Sure, he can run great routes, but I don't know if he's on the same page with Drew Brees yet. You heard the way Sean Payton and Drew Brees talked about Coby Fleener this offseason. It wasn't anywhere near the way they talked about Jimmy Graham. It wasn't anywhere near the way they talked about Ben Watson. It wasn't anywhere near the way they talked about Josh Hill when Sean Payton tried to sell Josh Hill to the public and really put Josh Hill in a bad spot. It wasn't fair for him, but Sean Payton saying all these that he's going to be great. Now, I think Coby Fleener, I think we better be prepared for some inconsistencies there. And also one underrated thing, Michael Ho'omanawanui, that loss is going to be significant. Yes. He was your blocking tight end, and now you have Chris Manhertz, who was a converted basketball player on the practice squad last year. He's your number 3. Sean Payton says he's a better blocker than he is a pass catcher. I'll believe it when I see it, because when he starts pumping these guys up, again, I just use Josh Hill as an ultimate example. Wide receivers, I think 1, 2, 3, you're good. Those guys are going to present mismatches for some guys. Is Michael Thomas going to be Fantasy Football Player of the Year via Sean Payton? I don't know about that. Running back, though, there's an overload there. I'm wondering what is going on here. Especially
without a blocking tight end.
Right. And so you have, 6 tailbacks at this rate? And John Kuhn is your fullback? I don't understand it. And I'm curious to see where they go. I mean, at least 2 running backs are going to be inactive on game day. I don't know where we're going there. It's weird.
A lot of great running backs for under 3 yards a carry. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
So it's that's overloaded. And another thing, the O-line can't block and create holes, and all those running backs, which was the best competition of camp other than kicker. I'm sure we'll get to that in a minute.
Kicker.
But it really is kind of all for naught if they can't run the ball with the offensive line. So all things being considered, I'm not sure about the running back position either.
Talk about the defense.
You know, I like him at defensive tackle. I really do. I like Fairley, especially if he's motivated. Onyemata has flashed a little bit. I like Davison, who's really grown as more than just a run stuffer. It looks like he can penetrate and be a pass rusher type D tackle as well. Once Rankins comes back, he should be okay. And we already talked about Kruger. We know what Cam Jordan can do. I think they're deeper at linebacker. In fact, it's not that it's a great group of linebackers, but I feel more confident about this group than I have maybe about
a solid group
than I have in a long time under Sean Payton. I like what they do at safety. I think they're pretty deep there. And cornerback, I'm a little concerned with, because all of a sudden now Damian Swan, IR, Keenan Lewis released. Going into training camp, that looked pretty deep. Now all of a sudden you have 2 undrafted rookies and a guy you just brought in Sterling Moore to go with Delvin Breaux. That's a little concerning. And P.J. Williams is obviously a redshirt rookie as well. But I think it all goes back to this, right? If the front 4 can create a pass rush, all those issues behind them all of a sudden aren't as much of an issue. So that's what it really boils down to, and I'm not convinced that they have that yet. We'll see.
Sean, you mentioned the front 4 creating a pass rush. I'm not convinced they can do it. And I don't think Dennis Allen is either. And so here's what's going to happen. I think he's going to go a la Greg Williams and be blitzing like a madman. Because I think they know they lack talent. Look at those teams that Greg Williams had. It's not like Will Smith was an elite pass rusher. And then when Cam Jordan came in 11, he had no sacks, 0 as a rookie, and played 15 games and started, no sack. You're going to have exotic blitzes flying around everywhere that we did not see in the preseason. I tried to calm the fires in my observations. Like, look, there will be less vanilla and more crazy, and so be prepared for that.
But you're going to leave those corners on an island, though.
Well, that's what you're going to have to do. Well, it's risk reward. I mean, well, look, we've seen it work under Greg Williams, and we've seen it flounder a la the San Francisco playoff game that everybody loves to remember.
Yes.
But you mentioned linebacker. What do you know? Regular season comes, and what do you know? Donnell Ellaby's injured again. I mean, he was healthy all off season, and then he leaves the team for a little bit for the birth of his child.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he's hurt again. Where did he fall down the stairs? I don't know.
Right.
But that's, again, a question mark. At least the Saints are in a better spot there than they were previous years. I think Craig Robertson, I think he can start, period.
Yeah, me too.
So I think they're in a good spot there. Sean mentioned the depth at cornerback. I do think that it is an issue now, because as much as we touted P.J. Williams in practice, I think he got a little exposed against the Steelers. I'm curious, say, if Delvin Breaux was on Amari Cooper this week, who is going to stop, say, a Michael Crabtree? Because he's not Richard Sherman stopping a Michael Crabtree and screaming in his face. Michael Crabtree's a talker. He might be yapping because he might beat P.J. Williams. So I'm curious to see what happens there. Look, safety, I think they're in a good spot, but pass rush, that's the ultimate thing. I think you're going to see Kenny Vaccaro doing crazy things. I think you're going to see some of these linebackers doing crazy things.
Roman Harper?
Absolutely, in certain spots, no question. It's not going to be all reliant on a four-man rush. They're going to have to gamble. At this rate, we've seen them not gamble so many times and they get beat. You might as well gamble and see what happens, and the risk may be rewarded, but look, they gave up, what, 700 billion touchdowns passing last year?
Yes.
Why not give up 698 billion this year and get a couple more sacks?
Forbath and Connor Barth are at camp. It's too close to call. Last season, he made the wrong call and sent the wrong kicker packing. They bring in Will Lutz, who didn't have a storied career in college. Guys, what can you make of this?
Jim Henderson and I were talking about this earlier today, as a matter of fact. Last year, he had two rookies that had never kicked. Picked the rookie that picked the wrong rookie, cut him a few weeks into the season, and brought in a veteran. This year, he brings in two veterans who both had really steady camps. I mean, there was a couple misses here and there, but I thought that was the toughest cut of all. And I actually would have went with Connor Barth. I thought he had the stronger leg.
Barth was immediately picked up by Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. And you think Kai Forbath's going to make the team, and then he talks about the great kicker workout. And I'm thinking to myself,
not great,
yeah,
the greatest.
The greatest
he's ever seen. He's ever seen.
And I'm thinking to myself,
Adam Vinatieri who? Morton who? This Will Lutz guy, Hall of Famer. I'm thinking to myself, Hall of Fame workout.
He missed two field goals, according to reports.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, there's no defense, right? There's no, I mean, there might be a snapper, maybe not. And I'm thinking, okay, of all the moves, right, that we've seen, you can write all of them off to, okay, this is what happened at the end of the last week of the preseason, first week of the regular season, improve your roster, happened in 06, blah, blah, blah. The move for Will Lutz is a sign of nerves. That is a sign of nerves by Sean Payton. There is, I mean, and look, he's setting this poor kid up for, I mean, if he misses a field goal, good luck. Now, he may come on and be the greatest kicker that we've ever seen, but that is a huge gamble at a position where you missed 8 field goals last year. And look, winning and losing in the NFL, the line is so thin, that can put you over the edge. So, good luck, Will Lutz, because we're all going to be watching.
866-3200. Phone lines are open. What can you add?
I hope Lutz has a life jacket, because how many times have we seen the kicker Bermuda Triangle? It's going to, or like the Bayou St. John, and it's going to suck you right down to the bottom. It's something where I never get Sean Payton with kickers. I don't think he understands kickers. I just don't. And then like I said, I mentioned Josh Hill. Why are you going to put this on this kid who hasn't proven anything? It's unbelievable. So here's my take on the situation. Sean Payton sees this workout. He gets word of mouth from John Harbaugh. All right, this guy's good. And so Sean Payton basically brings in, say, Kai Forbath, and is like, you know what, this might blow up in my face, but we're going to go for it. See you later. And it's just totally Sean on a whim. It's unbelievable. And that's what, look, we're on kicker number 11. Right. I'm going to bet we'll be on kicker number 12. His name might be Robbie Gould, who this Bears cut to bring in Connor Barth. It might be kicker 13. It's absurd. And it's going to get him beat. And it's going to get him criticism. And
rightly so.
He better be ready for it.
No doubt.
I just wonder how much leeway he gives him, because this is the gym, right? The unknown gym. How much leeway does he get? I mean, because Payton does not want to be wrong about this. This is a huge gamble.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's shift gears. Let's talk a little college football. Both you guys are alumni of LSU, and I know you couldn't be happy about what you saw against Wisconsin. But the seat is hot for the Mad Hatter right now, and rightly so. Brandon Harris with another poor performance. Man, look, at this point, if you're not an accurate passer, you're not an accurate passer. At this point, if you are nervous when the lights come on and you're emotional and you can't get it together, well then, you're emotional and you're nervous and you can't get it together. They're going to try Danny Etling this week supposedly against Jacksonville State. Sean, you first. What are your thoughts on the Tigers, man?
Total, colossal, epic offensive failure at all levels, right? Head coach to offensive coordinator to quarterback to the rest of the offense. I don't think LSU was quite as prepared as they would have liked to be with Wisconsin, because Wisconsin was using some exotic blitzes and they looked confused. A lot of linemen blocking air in that game. I don't understand. I can understand, wanting Leonard Fournette to be the focal point of your offense. But what I don't understand is when they drop back to pass, A, it's a long drop. B, it's a 2 wide receiver route every time, to the intermediate to deep outside of the numbers. Those are low percentage throws. There's no tight end down the seam. There's no check down to a running back. And it's just mind-boggling to me that this is where we're at with the LSU offense at this point. Now flip it to the other side of the ball, because there's a myth perpetuating right now that LSU's defense saved that game. They did. However, don't be fooled into thinking that front seven played well. They did not. LSU's secondary was superior to Wisconsin's wide receivers, and they played well, and they quite frankly saved the game. But Wisconsin was gashing that front seven, and that concerns me, because when LSU faces a wide receiver core that's up to their secondary level, and then that front seven loosens up a little bit, that could be a problem for the defense as well. So I wouldn't be duped into thinking that LSU's defense has got it figured out either.
Larry?
But they did only score 16 points. If you're holding Wisconsin basically in their backyard to 16 points, you better win the game. And you got college football's ultimate offensive weapon. But I think you mentioned the routes, and it's amazing because when has Brandon Harris ever proven he can hit those routes?
Right.
About a quarter to never.
Right.
And the best play we saw, they might as well run Leonard Fournette on a wheel route every time. Every time.
Right.
He's probably faster than all these other guys. Do it. It'll be a mismatch every time. I don't care if you put a corner on him. He's too fast and he's too physical. Do it. But I go back to this, and it makes me laugh ever since even the first time. And look, ultimately the offense, yes, Les Miles is down with the offensive play calling and the style. That's what he wants to do. But you bring in Cam Cameron, and my first thought as soon as they hired him, this is the guy the Ravens fired because their offense was garbage. They fired him. They go and win the Super Bowl. Right. Why is this a good idea? Why? It's not. And we've seen it. And the guy was a head coach for 1 year in Miami and got run out of town. This isn't good. It's almost like Drew Brees is in Les's ear saying, I love Cam Cameron. He's the greatest ever. Just like when Drew Brees goes up to the podium, I love my offensive line. Yes. They're the best ever. It's like Willy Wonka. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And I'm almost coming out like LSU fanatic. I'm not a fanboy of like anything, really. But it's absurd and obnoxious. And it's after the last offseason, sorry. If this continues, which I predicted will, adios.
Well, here's the other thing. I think if they lose before that Ole Miss game, would they pull the plug midseason on Les? I think that would certainly be a more realistic possibility now than it ever was before.
I agree, and I think he felt it too.
Yeah.
I don't say that because watch, Cam Cameron will be the head coach. They'll win some magical game, then he'll be in there, and worse things will happen.
Scary. Let's head to the phone lines. 866-3200. Emil is in River Ridge. Emil, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hey, Eric. Hey, Sean. Hey, Larry. How you guys doing?
Emil, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, my hypothesis is thus: we are actually a drinking town with a football problem. Now, dealing with all these, you have some major jalopies. You have Leonard Fournette with LSU, Drew Brees with the Saints, and Anthony Davis with the Pelicans. I mean, players for the ages. Yet the rest of the team is they're also a team of the ages, the Stone Ages. Now, what's it going to take to get the team physics garner to work with team chemistry? And then are these people actually learning something? I mean, are they actually being taught, or is just trying to make time? And I'm just concerned about the future of our respective franchises, and I want to get y'all's opinion about that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think with the Saints it's personnel. I think with the Pelicans personnel. I think with LSU it's coaching. I mean, that's my opinion.
LSU, the personnel's there
right.
outside of the quarterback position.
Right.
And I don't know if Brandon Harris could be coached any different, but maybe you run a different style offense. You cater to the quarterback, but look, we could spend, I don't know.
Oh, we'd have to do another
100 hours on all these subjects because there are breakdowns each and every team that Emil just brought up.
No doubt. Wallace is in New Orleans. Wallace, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Wallace.
How y'all guys doing today?
All right, Wallace, how you doing?
All right. Hey, we still got problems on the offensive line, and we still got problems with the cornerbacks. We don't have no cornerbacks. We don't have nobody to block Breeze. They done paid Breeze all that money. He ain't going to be able to perform because who we got? We got the center, and we got the guy, Jerry Evans, we just got back. Who else we got to block for Breeze?
Well, Teron Armstead's pretty good,
yeah.
but he's
When he hurt, when he's coming back?
It sounds like he'll be ready for week 1.
He better be ready for week 1.
I think he's going to play regardless.
Right.
So y'all tell me, you know, is somebody out there that they can get another offensive lineman or somebody in the cornerback?
Not this year. Maybe in the draft next year. Maybe in the draft.
Wallace, that ship has sailed, my friend. There's nobody coming in. When Sitton hit the market, it was like manna from heaven. Only problem is he wanted to stay in the Midwest. We appreciate the phone call. Thanks for calling in. There's no one out there. I mean, I said it earlier. They're dumpster diving right now.
You just got to hope that this season somehow, some way, they're able to find a way to win these type of games. But no, there's no one walking through the building, as Peyton would say.
When everyone talks about Ronald Leary, I've heard that name about 100,000 times. It's not like that guy is the best thing ever. He was not good. When we saw him in person against the Cowboys, Saints played the Cowboys last year, he wasn't some great player.
That's the level of desperation, though, Larry.
Right, exactly. And the Cowboys know it, and so they're jacking up the price.
Right.
And
the Saints haven't gone for it yet.
No,
and they won't. And they won't. To Tom and Metairie. Hey, Tom, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports.
Guys, great show. I just have 2 comments about LSU. You remember when Les said that Cam Cameron, it was best that he was on the field? And now all of a sudden the solution is to have him back upstairs again, and that's what is going to solve the Wisconsin loss. And then number 2, I can see this Jordan Jefferson thing happening all over again. I don't know if you listened to his radio show, and some person asked if he would look at another quarterback, and his answer was past ridiculous. So I think it's Harris throughout the year. I hope the guy plays well. I'm pulling for him. But I don't think our Purdue guy will even get a shot this year. I'll hang up and listen to you guys.
Thank you, Tom. Guys, you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I think Brandon Harris is going to get every opportunity to succeed, and they're going to ride or die with him. It's just until it becomes a point where it's can't do anything else.
You have to play Etling this week against Jacksonville State. I mean, it may create a quarterback controversy. Who cares? You have to see what the kid has.
You already have a quarterback controversy. Right. Your starter,
he's inaccurate,
is not good.
Right.
And it's the perfect comparison, the Jordan Jefferson thing.
Yes.
Look, when Jarrett Lee had an issue, he threw 2 picks against Bama, and we never saw him again. Against Alabama, I would rather have had Mettenberger in there, just slinging around, give yourself a chance.
Amen.
But look, it's the same exact scenario. I agree, unfortunately, and it's going to be a headache until we see someone else under center.
Until the axe falls. Let's go to Brian and Metairie. Hey, Brian, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports.
I just wanted to make a little comment on LSU. I just don't understand. We've won 2 national championships with mediocre quarterbacks, Flynn and Mock. Mecklenburger last year had a decent season. Why will Les Miles not get a drop-back passing quarterback? For this scheme, apparently it works. You won 2 national championships with a drop-back passer that just could manage the field. We laid an egg in a national championship when we had, what's his name, the one that couldn't get past the 50-yard line, Jefferson. And then when you ask Les Miles, because I've asked him on his show, of course I get coach talk. We're trying to get the best possible player. You're getting running gun quarterbacks for a drop passing scheme. I'm not a coach, and I can see that. I'll just sit back and listen to y'all's answer.
Brian, thank you.
It's what I've always said. They go for these athletic, dual threat type guys, and they put them in a box and run 22 personnel the entire game. So it's frustrating, but I think there's a philosophical disconnect between what you want to do on the field and the type of player you have to do it.
I even remember going back to a bunch of years ago when Jamarcus Russell was a quarterback. I think they played at Auburn. I think it was like a 10-7 loss, and they would not let Jamarcus throw the football. It was really a run, obnoxiousness, and you're screaming at the TV or there, let Jamarcus throw the football. I mean, he is a pro style. Throw the football. I just don't understand it. And even like you said, even from him to, as we've gone all the way through, they've never done it completely right. They lucked into getting a national championship when they had Matt Flynn. They had 2 losses, and they ended up winning. So, look, I mean, you can give them credit for that, but again, they lucked into even getting into that game after bungling it twice.
We only got a couple minutes left, so we're not going to have time to get into Tulane. So I will ask you guys, because both of you cover the New Orleans Saints, what are your expectations for this year?
This year, I know the fan base is really, really, really down. But I think when you have Drew Brees, as I said earlier, you're never going to completely bottom out to where it's like a 3-13 dumpster fire. I think this is a team that's probably going to stay in the 7 to 9 win range. Now, 7-9 record, 7 wins to 9 wins, somewhere in that 7, 8, or 9 win season. The start of their schedule is manageable, and if they can come out of that 3-1 or better, then maybe you have a chance. But if you come out of that 1-3, forget about it.
They have to start 3-1, or it's going to be mediocre, and you're in the same spot. I think even at this rate, Saints fans would rather them be 3-13. I think they're tired of 7-9. It gets you nowhere to get you in the middle of the draft, and you're getting Andres Pete and you're getting whoever else. I think people are tired of it. Either be great or stink. I think that's what they want, and I think their ceiling is 8-8. If they start off 2-2, I'm not buying them. Right. They got to start 3-1, and I'm thinking it's lower than 8-8.
Right. You like them this week against Oakland?
Oh, you're making me make a prediction. I've already made it on the website. Yes, I do.
I do.
But it doesn't come down to a field goal.
Right.
I say 28-27 Saints.
I like them this weekend. I like them at home. Home opener. Peyton's never lost one during week 1 of the season. It's a good opponent to go against. Oakland. Yeah, I like them this weekend.
And I never make predictions, so don't even look my way. Larry Holder, Sean Fazende, thanks so much for being with us here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night at 10 p.m. right here on WLAE-TV and statewide on Pelican Sports Network. That is 9 p.m. every Friday night. You can catch me on the radio weekdays 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. on 990 a.m. WGSO. Remember, the TuneIn Radio app is a great download for your smartphone or tablet. It's free, and it'll let you take the WGSO with you, the signal with you anywhere. You can also check out my podcast and listen live at ericasher.com. You can catch all the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports at ericasher.com as well. You can also follow me on Twitter at Eric_Asher. Special thanks to our guests, Sean Fazende and also Larry Holder. Also to the WLAE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Kenny Juno, Naila Jones, also Richard King, and my director, William Hill. For Sean Fazende and Larry Holder, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for watching Inside New Orleans Sports. We'll see you right back here next week for another edition. Have a great evening.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first-place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.